Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second part of the IOSF Otters of the World World Otter Day webinar. My name is Ben YOXON, and I will be chairing the webinar today. I am IOSF's Education Officer, and it is a pleasure to have you with us here today. For those that are joining for the first time, we would like to wish you a very happy World Otter Day. And for those that are joining for the second time, of course, we wish you a happy World Otter Day too. We hope you enjoyed the first webinar and we look forward to sharing our knowledge and experience with you today for the second part. IOSF is joined by a number of otter experts over the day, sharing their knowledge and experience with us. The webinars, by having two webinars across two different times, it means that time zones are not an issue for people attending and ensure that we can be a global experience and joining all otter lovers together and creating a bigger otter family. We are delighted to have attendees from over 60 countries across the world, and over 300 people have registered to join us. So we are very pleased about that. During the webinar, you may have questions for myself or any of the other panelists, so feel free to use the Q&A and the chat boxes to ask those, and we will answer as we can. If you have any questions for certain individuals, please direct these during or after their presentations, or at the end when we have a group meeting to finish. All questions will be directed by myself to any of the panelists and they will answer as best they can. For this afternoon's session, we are absolutely delighted to be joined by 4 otter experts from across the world. Today and this evening, you will be offered presentations from the following. William MGOMO, who is in Tanzania and will present on otters, communities and reducing human-otter conflict in an important African wetland habitat. There's myself as IOSF's Team Otter Invigilator, and I will be presenting on Team Otter and the importance of children's environmental education. There is Pablo Hernandez, who is our resident Neotropical otter expert, who will be presenting on the conservation challenges for the Neotropical otter in Mexico. Megan ISADORE of the River Otter Ecology Project, who will be presenting supporting conservation 1 otter sighting at a time. And last and by certainly no means least is Bridgette Sammarco of Save the Giants, who will be presenting on giant otters in Guyana and the work of Save the Giants. We are delighted to welcome you all today to the World Otter Day webinar. And once again, thank you for sharing your time and knowledge with IOSF and all our attendees. So without further ado, I will give you a brief introduction to William and his fantastic work, and I will let William take over and present. For William's presentation, I will be sharing the slides and William will be talking through it. So William MGOMO is a conservation ranger who has studied wildlife management, travel and tourism. He is now working at Paramba Game Reserve under the Tanzanian Wildlife Authority as a conservation ranger. Currently, he is also a student pursuing his bachelor degree in tourism management at Sokoine University of Agriculture. Throughout serving as a conservation ranger, he is focused on protecting wild animals and their habitats through patrols, outreach programs, fire management programs, and resolving human-wildlife conflicts. William has worked with the International Otter Survival Fund and African Otter Network after attending IOSF Otter Workshop in Tanzania in 2015. This is where he grew his passion for protecting and conserving otters around his locality, as they are among the threatened species of the world. He works to conserve, develop awareness of otters focused on target groups, starting from primary, secondary schools, farmers, fishermen, and local communities, as to reduce the negative perception towards otters. This led him to conduct a survey in Mbinga and Niassa district along the Lake Nyasa. William is a frontline otter champion and received the Otter Oscar Award for Community Achievement in 2016. In 2019, he published an article on an assessment of the human attitude towards otters in Mbinga district, Tanzania, with Jan Reed Smith, a director of the African Otter Network. He devotes himself to the conservation of otters to ensure better lives of otters as a sign of a healthy environment, ecosystem balance, and tourist attraction, promising future generations the ability to enjoy nature through protection of wildlife. So, again, without further ado, I will pass you over to William for his superb presentation. Thanks.
Yes, my name is William Richard MGOMO. I'm working at the Lipalamba Game Reserve at the Game Warden. I've been doing otter work in Ruvuma region, especially in Mbinga and Nyasa district. The species that is found in Ruvuma region is spotted necked otter and African chorus otter. Okay, the area is offer the suitable environment for otter, both species, because it have got the area is have got the habitat with considerable arable land, which is in Mbinga districts. The most of people there, they are depending on agriculture, but in Lake Nyasa, most of people, they are depending on fishing activities. So the area, it has got the river, many rivers, foresty, and the wetland, which is suitable for both species. I'm going to tell you the importance, why are we conserving this species. According to various surveys on the Ruvuma region, there are three African otter species, which is spotted necked otter. It is two species, which is spotted necked otter and the African chorus otter. The importance of conserving this species in the environment. First of all, it's used as a good indicator for Earth's environment. Wherever you see otter at the place, it is the sign that the environment is clean and is free from human disturbance or human pollution. The second, otter, it maintains ecological balance for species or for ecosystem or for living organism. Thirdly, otter is serve as a attraction for tourists. There are some tourists who are interested to see otter in their environment. So it's a good attraction for tourists. Otter life, the presence of Earth's otter population, it indicates the watershed. Otter disappearance is the evidence of pollution, land fragmentation, destruction, or loss of prey. It's because you know, there's many activities of human that cause the pollution, that cause the fragmentation through agriculture, loss of prey like fishing, that is the food for otter, and other organisms that otter feed on. Otter mostly feed on crayfish, fish worms, crustaceans. The fishermen and fish farmers have the big conflict with this species. For the fishermen, they believe that otter is causing them to be poor, but for eating their fish from their net. But for fish farmer, they believe that otter eat their fish from their pond. So they have a conflict with this species. Otter can be a diurnal anymore, but due to human activities, the species typically only observed early in the morning and late evening in Nyasa and Mbinga district. As you know, otter is a shameless, is a shame animals. They don't like human activities. They want to stay in the place which is quietly peaceful. So if the human activities like agriculture, like human pollution, they can move this fish to other area. But for the tribal found in Nyasa, called the Wampoto, they believe that African Crowless otter use its tails to catch fish, to catch crabs. This process involves daggering their tail in the water, and when they grab the crab on the otter, their tail from the water and start to eat the fish. So use itself as the technique for catching crab, for getting their food. So that is the belief that the Wampoto have in Lake Nyasa. Otter is facing many challenge. There is threat that Otter is facing mainly in Nyasa and Mbinga district. The major as the other activities of these people from Ruvuma region are the for example, for the Nyasa peoples, the mainly activities are fishing, so they depend on fishing. So Otter is facing a challenge, like the people hunt them for bushmeat. So the people who eat otter, so they hunt and kill otter in order to get meat. But also there is a pollution and toxin in the water. So the people tend to use the poison at the fishing method. So by using this toxin or pollutant material, they cause the disappearance of otter prey in the water. There is habitat loss through clearing forest for agriculture activities. The people, most people depend on agriculture, so they clearing forest for agriculture activities. But also there is a tendency of believing that in Ruvuma region, the area is dominated with Miombo woodland. So the people, they believe that by clearing new forests in order for agriculture, they believe that the area is fertile. So they clear forest in order to get plenty of crops. So that is another challenge, because the habitat for otter is just lost. Bad and false perception about otter or myths. The people, they believe in different ways on otter. There is the people who believe that otter, especially for the fishermen, they believe that otter have roots on their mouths that help them to catch easy fish. So they hunt otter in order to get that roots, so as they believe that if they can tie it into their fish net, they can get plenty of fish. But also there is use of otter bodies in different medicine. So they use different parts of otter for treating or heal different diseases. There is a conflict with fishermen and fish farmers. So they do have a conflict with this fish. Also use of pesticide and insecticide in agriculture. So the people, by using this, the people using this pesticide or insecticide for killing the this insect that destroying crops. So if the rain come, they wash away this pesticide or this material into the water source, and it's called the disappearance of otter food or otter prey. This is the picture that I took during my visitation to fish farmers and fishermen. I found some of the fish farmers. His name is Mr. Komba. He set this trap in order to kill otter. So after talk to him, he agreed to remove this trap along his pond. So this trap was there in order to kill otter. So this is one of the successful of education awareness. So this is the among of the positive outcome after raising the awareness about otter. And this is the skin of otter. We found it in one of the villagers who is living adjacent to Lipalamba Game Reserve. So he killed otter for meat. So we
Hi, William, you still there? Hello?
yes, Ben.
Sorry, William, we just lost you temporarily, but we can carry on.
I think it's the network problem. This is one of the challenge that we found in Luvuma. So the people hunt and kill otter for bushmeat. This is one of the picture from Luvuma. It shows that the people are clearing the forest in order to cultivate or for agriculture. So as you see, this is the new farmer. So the people tend to clear forest. They shift. They do have this shifting cultivation. So if they cut down trees, they believe that they will get plenty of crops. So this behavior, it destroys the otter habitat through clearing forest. There is the uses of otter, the part of otter, as the otter, the people eat otter, but there is other uses of otter, the parts or the body part of otter. There is the skin and claw. The people, they believe that it cures the cerebral meningitis for children. So they believe by using this clothes or skin of otter, it cure those diseases. But also the people use the skin to make art, use the skin to make drums and musical instrument. But also there is the notion that people believe it improves the sexual function for men. So they believe if they eat otter meat, they improve the sexual ability. And when they the boil the skin of otter, they believe that it can treat the constipation. You know, the behavior of otter, they tend to put the scattered. So the people they believe that by doing that they can it can cure the constipation disease for their children. But the crow they believe they believe that in bone they use bone in traditional medicine, but not specifically identified. For fishermen, they believe that otter possess roots in their mouths that help them to catch fish easily. So they hunt otter in order to kill them so that they can get that root from their mouths. So they believe if they tie that root to their fish net, they can get plenty of fish. But also the oil that extracted from otter meat, they use to treat ear problem. The scat used it to treat constipation in children. I believe it believes useful because otters spread their scat everywhere. You know, this belief, it depends from the tribal. It depends with the tribal. So the different tribes, they differ on how they believe on this species. The otter meat, the people, they believe it improves the sexual prowess or sexual ability for the men. You know, this is sexual ability. You know, otter, it is spent most of his time in river or in water. So after going back to in the land, he used to lab himself in the stone. So the people they believe that by doing so is doing sex with stone. So they believe if they eat otter meat, they can improve their sexual ability. Education awareness is very important for better protection of this fish because otter is just a small animals, and most of people they tend to talk about this big species, which is lion, elephant, leopard, buffalo, but they forget about this small species. But if you see this small species, they have their play that they have the role that play in ecosystem. So it is very important to conserve this species. But also it's very important because the most of people they just have a bias against this fish. They knew nothing about this species. So it's very important to educate them or to tell them about the role that played by this species. This species is very important because, as I said before, it's indicator of Earth's environment, good attraction for tourists, but also is good ambassador for health environment. Importance of education awareness. Working with community to develop local conservancy and network of local otter champion, it will help to people understand their role in the environment that can lead to protection of this of their habitat, eradicate or reduce the bad perception of otter, resolve otter conflict with fishermen, fish farmers by creating local solution to the problem. While educating these people about the role of otter, I used to share the knowledge, what they have, what they believe about this species. So we share the knowledge and we come up with the best way how we can conserve this species. Education, youth and community raise awareness and knowledge of otter and other small carnivores and their importance to the health ecosystem. The youth will be the future decision maker. So by doing this education awareness, especially to impart this knowledge for the youth generation, it will help for the future conservation of this species, because these are the parent, and they will be the leader of tomorrow. So if we impart, if they raise with this notion of conserving this species, it will be better for future conservation. Education awareness to fishermen and sharing information about otter in Lake Nyasa. As you see this picture, it shows the one of the fishermen in Lake Nyasa. So I tried to share the knowledge, what they have and what they believe toward otter. So, but most of people, they don't have that much conflict, but most of them they hunt otter in order to kill them for bushmeat. So this is the one of the beach camp just I visited, and sharing the information about otter. Sometimes it's very important sharing knowledge rather than go and telling what you have. Sometimes listen to them is very important, because you know what they believe, what they know. Sometimes they can tell you the best way how we can conserve this species. So this also is the picture that I took in Lake Nyasa with fishermen. So as you see this picture, it shows there is a lake there, which is the good habitat for otter. So it's very important to conserve this species. Education awareness in schools. So apart from visiting fishermen and fish farmers, I visit these school kids in order to tell them the importance of conserving this species. So I visited different schools, especially primary and secondary schools, because I believe that by doing so, it will improve the future conservation of the species. So If you see, there is a lot of people, a lot of students. So these students, if they finish their schools, they go back with the knowledge of conserving this otter. You know, this is the picture that I took. I was given this children or this school kid to draw the picture of otter. The aim was to sharpen their talent, also to make them remember what I told them. So by doing it, it improves the awareness, it improves the talent of the student. The people who are drawing it well, I give him a book and a pen as a gift or award of good drawing. Education awareness to fish farmers and sharing information. You know, this is the one of the picture that I took after visiting these fish farmers. You know, while I visited these fish farmers, we tried to survey the fish pond to see the otter size. You know, these fish farmers, they believe that otter eat fish from their pond. So when I visited them, we tried together to look around along their fish pond to see the sign. And if we found the skirt, we tried to see the remain from the skirt. But most of the skirt that we found it complies the remains of crab rather than fish. So I tried to tell them it's not only otter that eat their fish, but there is other animals like bird that can feed from their fish. So I tried to change their mind by telling, but also the otter eat their fish, the juvenile fish. So I tell them that the otter they do like to feed on crab rather than fish. So by doing so, it increases the competitors from their fish, from their fish. So it's better to conserve this these species. You know, this is one of the picture we tried to. As you see, we were just looking at the skirt, the skirt along the pond, and we found the remain of crab rather than fish. So if we found the fish is it's just a small remain of fish rather than crabs. Especially, this is the picture that it was in Mbinga district. You know, the most people in Mbinga district, they do have this fish pond. So most of them they depend on. Other we see the sign of otter. This it was in Mbinga and the Nyasa district. So as you see, it is shown that there is otter there. So we need to conserve this species. We need to protect this species before it disappeared. Education awareness outcome. Yes, the education awareness, it helped to harmonize the conflict of human toward otter. You know, before education awareness, most of people, they were having conflict with this species, they tend to hunt them, they tend to kill them, as they see that the strain to their economy. So they try to kill them in order to decrease their competitors. So they took other the competitors for their fish. So this is education awareness. It helped to harmonize the situation, but also otter ambassador increased. People nowadays, most of them, they know otter, and the people who have started developing the interest toward this species. But also it reduced negative perception from fishermen toward otter. So education awareness, it improved to reduce the conflict, to reduce the perception. You know, as we see, as we have seen before, there is a different perception that people perceive toward this species. So by doing education awareness, it helped to decrease, it helped to reduce the negative perception toward this species. But also it increased the awareness of the role that played by otter. You know, most of people before, they were just knew nothing about this species, but after education awareness, most of them, they have understood what are the role played by otter. So they started to conserve it. This is my recommendation on my presentation. I recommend this education awareness to local community and school kids to proceed or to continue because it's very essential for conservation of this otter. You know, by expanding this education awareness, or by continuing this education awareness, it will improve the future conservation of otter, but also to initiate the protection of otter from the higher level of decision maker to lower level. You know, to impart the knowledge from the higher level of decision makers up to lower level of this decision makers. You know, if we have the common understanding, we have the common vision, or we have a common vision toward this species, it will help to protect it rather than having a different perception. So it's better. It's very, very important to initiate this from all levels, but also to establish the fund that can facilitate the protection of water, habitat, and compensation or consolation for otter destruction. You know, as you see, there is a conflict with fishermen. The otter destroy the fishing net. So the people, they hate otter because they destroy their net. So if we have this fund, we can compensate them and trying to persuade them to protect this species, but also to extend the otter program in other regions. You know, in the Luvuma region, I always do otter work in Nyasa and the Mbinga district. But in Ruvuma region, there is 6 districts, you know, so it's better to extend this program to other area, especially districts in Ruvuma region, but also to expand in other region of my country, Tanzania. So education awareness is very important, so very essential tools for conserving otter species, especially to youth generation, because it develops the critical thinking skills, capacity building, impart passion of conservation from early stage, because they are future parent and decision maker of tomorrow's world. So by doing this education awareness, imparting knowledge to youth, it will help us in conserving this species, because these kids will raise with a passion of conserving these species. So it will be better, and it will be positive in conservation of this species. So without saying so, thank you for listening.
There's a couple of questions. Teresa Mason is asking, do you feel optimistic about changing attitudes towards otters?
Yes, of course. Yes, I feel optimistic on changing this perception of people toward this fish, because sometimes they are wrong. I usually ask the fishermen if they've already get the route that they believe that is found from the otter mouth, but none of them show me that route.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Someone else is asking, are otters protected by law in Tanzania?
Yes, otter is protected by laws because it's wildlife, and there is a law that protects wildlife in my country. But sometimes, you know, this fish is found outside the protected area. So the people use that opportunity to kill them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another individual has asked, is there many problems with fishermen's nets and properties being destroyed by otters?
Come again?
Are there a lot of problems with fishermen's nets being destroyed by otters? Is that their main kind of conflict?
Not that much, but there are some fishermen who get distracted their net from water.
Okay, I think
so yes.
Last question that we have you seen any kind of increase in otter population since you started your work?
Yes, of course. There is increase. Most of the area, otter has been started to be seen.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, William, and thank you for your presentation. If anyone has any further questions for William, then you can put them in the chat and we can ask him at the end when we all get together. Thank you, William. So next presentation will be myself on the Team Otter program, the IOSF Team Otter program. So without further ado, I will share my screen and go through that. Before we start, I will just, sorry, 2 seconds, post up the IOSF video Gives you kind of an indication into the threats that otters face on the whole.
And screen isn't shared.
It's not
And
sharing.
check the view. Yes.
Okay, hold on. I think I've clicked the wrong thing, sorry. Share screen. Try again. Is that working? Is that video working?
So you're going to click
No.
a different portion of your screen. You're showing your file folder instead of the video.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
Change the
Give me
view.
1 minute and I'll close that. Close that. We'll try it one more time. If not, I'll just crack on with the presentation. Okay, I'll try that. Can you see that, Bridget?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you. So that kind of just gives an indication of things that we can do to help. But luckily, we're all here today and we've all kind of shared the same goal, and that's to help otters. Which kind of brings me on to my presentation, which is on the IOSF Team Otter program and the importance of children's environmental education. Just to confirm, if someone could say, you can see that okay, yeah?
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Pablo. Yeah, so as well as other parts of the International Otter Survival Fund, I am the education officer and I'm the kind of pioneer of the Team Otter program. So what exactly is Team Otter? So we use otters as kind of a mascot for our environmental education. As mentioned by William in his presentation, they are a species that is incredibly important to their environment and the environment they live within. where they live both in water and on land, something that's called semi-aquatic. And for that reason, they need healthy environments in both of these habitats. They are also at the top of the food chain, so that means that any sort of pollutants that enter the environment will enter the otters, and it also means that there's thriving species underneath them within that food chain. So if you have the presence of a thriving otter population, you also have a healthy environment and thriving coexisting species too. So as well as obviously being an otter organization and makes sense for us to use them as a mascot, it actually makes sense in an environmental way as well. Team Otter is a global group of children that are working together for otters, wildlife, and the environment. As I said, although we use otters as kind of the forefront and the figurehead for our education awareness program, they are more of a mascot, and we want children and adults for that matter to really grow a passion for the environment and have them at the forefront of any decision making moving forward. We want to help children reconnect with their environment. Many children have become disengaged from this, and this program is aimed at reconnecting them and igniting a passion that will last a lifetime. And raising awareness in both simple steps and big steps that we can take to help the environment and reduce our impact on issues such as climate change, pollution, and any other sort of factors that are having a detrimental impact on wildlife. We also have Team Otter clubs, and these are clubs that are making a difference, whether it be to their local environment or they have bigger campaigns to kind of help global issues. They can all connect through myself and can learn from one another through letters about wildlife, culture, and much more from other areas. I know some groups that we've worked with have a lot of fun in writing to other areas and other countries and receiving letters back as well. They can also write letters or send pictures to show, and we can show both on our Facebook page and on our Team Otter website what they're doing and show the world what little steps have become big steps in the future. So without further ado, we'll kind of have a look at 3 Team Otter clubs that we have around the world. We have a Team Otter club in Bangladesh. One of my colleagues, Grace, was just involved in a webinar in Bangladesh, and involved was Dilip, who started the Team Otter Club in Bangladesh. He visited a primary school in Dhaka, the capital, and delivered a day of otters. From that, he found 15 kids that were really passionate about otters, and they moved forward to create the Team Otter Club within Bangladesh. We have 7 Team Otter clubs in Montenegro. They were run by a gentleman called Ninoslav Djurovic, and Ninoslav works for an NGO called Living Green. He has recently actually just moved with another Team Otter program where he is working on Lake Skadar, which is the largest wetland habitat in the Balkan region of Europe, to create more awareness of otters, and is using the children to do that too. So that's a great story. And finally, this is my own personal Team Otter club that I run. We have at the moment 17 kids, and we meet weekly to do various things such as beach cleans, and you can see that's what they're doing just now. They clean up the village. They're very passionate about making sure that their local area is litter free, plastic free, and kind of helps not only otters but any animal that lives within our environment. So far, since we've kind of been allowed to meet again, we've picked up about 200 kilograms of rubbish from our beaches and from our village. They also are not only reactive to the situation, they're very proactive, and they've started creating posters to go around the village to encourage people to use less plastic and to use the bins. They've also started contacting local businesses to try and find ways in which we can reduce the impact of our small village here on the Isle of Skye. So they're really proactive, and all the ideas that we have come from them, and they have a passion which we are trying to grow. We don't only do campaigns, sometimes we take time to go and visit the wildlife that we kind of are trying to help. So you can see there's sea urchins, crabs. It was one time that we just went and sat on the beach and watched an otter for an hour or so, a Eurasian otter here in Skye. So we're trying to do different things that keeps it fresh and keeps them enjoying what they're doing. There are also other clubs around different parts of the world. I'm sure Bridget, with her Save the Giants talk, will mention one of them in Guyana. But it's great to keep growing, and if anyone wants to make a club as well, then we're always open to have more. So why is this important? Obviously, we're doing all these things, but what's the reason? I guess in many ways, William covered it in his presentation when he said that the children we're teaching now are the parents of tomorrow's world. And if we can kind of grow on their knowledge and their excitement, then we can make a difference, and they can make a difference, which is most important. Much has been documented of the impact that we are having on the natural world. It has been proven that a lack of knowledge leads to a lack of understanding, and a lack of understanding leads to a lack of effort to make a difference. So we're trying to grow that knowledge, grow that understanding, and therefore grow the effort to make a difference. Children really want to make a difference. I know from my experience working in different schools and with different kids, they really do understand the role they play, and it is so important to grow on that passion. They probably actually have a better understanding of the impact that we kind of, on the whole, have on the natural world way more than we do. So it's really good. They are sponges of information. So if you give them the correct information, they're just going to run with it and keep growing that information and keep trying to make a difference. It's their future. Again, William put it perfectly that they are the parents and future decision makers of tomorrow. So it's really important that we can grow their knowledge and increase their power to make a difference. Also, it's really important to grow their confidence, whether they go on to be future ecologists or whatever walk of life they grow on. If we can stand them in good stead and grow confidence in speaking in front of one another or releasing their artistic flair, then that's absolutely fantastic too. So how can you help? And it's not possible for everyone to run their own Team Otter club. They might not live in areas that this is possible, but here are some simple steps that we could encourage you to make a difference. Can you run your own Team Otter club? I know I just said it's maybe not possible for everyone, but some people might really love working with children and therefore want to do it. There is no kind of one method or one way that we tell you you have to do it this way. Like I say, there's clubs that I've mentioned earlier. Some of them meet every week, some of them meet every month, some of them just meet around World Otter Day. You have to fit it around what you want to do and what works best for the children. It is really important, first and foremost, that you enjoy being a Team Otter leader, because if you enjoy it, then the children will enjoy it too. What you do, you could learn about the environment, you could learn about mammals, birds, reptiles, plants, environmental factors, anything. Kind of the world is your oyster when it comes to that, and growing that is entirely up to you. And I will always, and IOSF or or anyone will always be willing to help and help with materials too. You could simply just enter their artwork or encourage children to enter their artwork to IOSF, and we can put it on the website. These two drawings, one of them, the one on the left that's white, it was actually given to us by William and was produced in Tanzania by a child there. And the one on the right was produced by a child in America. So doing the simple things like art and drawing competitions helps raise awareness and helps kind of create a love for otters as well. You can, as I've mentioned, connect with Team Otter clubs around the world. Tell us what you're doing, learn about your favorite animals, teach other clubs about your animals too. Some individuals in certain countries might not know about the animals you have, just like you might not know about the animals that they have. So this helps kind of grow understanding of biodiversity and grow kind of more love towards otters, wetlands, and the environment. We have our Olga the Otter game. If making a club isn't possible, you can find the game on our website where you can guide Olga back to her cubs. But that's just one part. You can make up your own game. Be as creative as you want, and we'd love to see it if you ever decide to do that. You can visit the Team Otter website, www.loveotters.org, or you can join the Team Otter group on Facebook to keep up to date on all things Team Otter. This is my information. Most, if not all of you will have my email address, and I'd be more than happy to help set up a Team Otter club. And that is the end of my presentation. And should you have any questions about Team Otter or anything, then please feel free to send me some information. So what do we have? Someone asked if the video will be available to share on Facebook. Yes, it will be. Is there one in the London area? Not at the moment, but we would love to have one in the London area. If anyone wants to start a club and they need help, then I would be more than happy to do that. Next question is from Sharon, I believe, who says, we're really looking forward to setting a Team Otter here in Northeast England, which we are also looking forward to. Pablo says, Pablo, our panelist here, says, when can you come to Mexico to make an otter club and eat delicious things? I like that, Pablo. I'm all for that. Yeah, I'm all for that. How regularly are you able to see otters on Sky is a question. That is a good question, actually. With enough time and with enough time, we could see them as regularly, I guess, as we like. But otters are, as all of my panelists, I'm sure will agree, are very unpredictable. And therefore, we could go to an area that we know, obviously living in Skye, we know of otters and kind of their habitats, but we could go to an area that we know otters for a week solidly and not see them. And then the next week, you go for a week solidly and see them every single day. So I don't know how to answer that question better than that, but we can see them semi-regularly if we want to. There's the questions and answers. Someone's asked, how can this Team Otter education be extended to other African countries, especially Nigeria, where these are seen daily and threat to them is increasing? I don't have a name for that individual, but if you email myself at ben@otter.org, I would be more than happy to discuss kind of what we can do moving forward. Any further questions? Are you working with the species champion MSPs? I'm going to encourage new Team Otters in Tayside. I don't have a name for that individual either. Yes, the species champion for otters is actually Kate Forbes, who is also the local, for those who aren't from Scotland, the MSPs are our government, our local government officials. So yeah, Kate Forbes is the Skye MSP and is also the otter species champion for the government. So yes, we do work with her and speak to her fairly regularly. I think that's all the questions. There might be one more and then we'll move on. Anna Maria, I will read that question as I think it's Pablo who's up next is presenting, and I'll give you an answer to that. Just give me a wee bit more time to read it. We will pass over to the fantastic Pablo. I will give a little introduction to Pablo, and then I will pass him over to give his talk on the Neotropical otter. So Pablo is a biologist, graduated from the Autonomous University of Aguascalientes, where he focused on wildlife monitoring. He obtained his master's and doctorate degree in conservation systematics at the I'll let you translate that one, Pablo, INECOL. From 2014 to date, Pablo has acted as a responsible and specialist advisor in different projects for the conservation of the Neotropical otter in 10 states and 8 natural protected areas in Mexico. He has also worked in Guyana with ourselves and Save the Giants for our workshop in 2019, where his expertise on the Neotropical otter was very gratefully received by both of our organizations and in collaboration and with research institutions, government sector and other NGOs as well. Currently, Pablo is president of the Nutrias de Mexico group and is in charge of 7 students who developed these related theses related to the Neotropical otter in Mexico, El Salvador, and Colombia. He is also the current member of the IUCN Specialist Group, Otter Specialist Group, since 2015. He has also been recognized for his academic achievements by winning the International Otter Survival Fund Otter Oscar in the research category and won third place in the award of doctorate thesis of the Mexican Association of Mastozoology 2016. So that's a little introduction to Pablo, and I will hand over to Pablo for his excellent presentation. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, Ben. So let me share the screen. So can you see?
Yeah, we can see that well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks,
perfect.
Pablo.
Just let me change that. Okay. Well, many thanks to International Otter Survival Fund for inviting me to participate in this great celebration of otters from around the world. I am very happy to be here with all of you talking about the neotropical otters in Mexico. So let's start. Okay. So neotropical otter. The neotropical otter is one of the 3 species of otters that inhabit in Mexico, and is the one with the greatest distribution in our country. Uh, the neotropical otters have a middle size, with a leg is 1.4 meters, and the weight 8 to 16 kilograms. So it's a middle size for, respect giant otters or sea otters. And the neotropical otters can have 1 to 4 cubs per year. In average is 1 to 2. Talking about his distribution, the neotropical otters have a huge distribution in America, and we can find this species that from northern Mexico to northern Argentina through the different ecosystems and habitats. In Mexico, we can find this species in near to the coast and to the mountains, in coastal plains, to the mountains, and some parts of the desert, for example, in rainforest, and cold forest, etc. And this species is divided into 3 subspecies, which present a strong morphological and genetic difference, which is important for their study and conservation, because this subspecies is the most different against the Inudris and Logicaudis. So the most of the studies of this species is from here, from Brazil and Colombia. In many times, the Mexicans use this information, but the genetics and morphology indicates that it is not the same. It's different groups, or with the evolutionary stories is different thanks to the Andes. So in Mexico and in interior distribution, we can find this species in dry zones, in wetlands, and big rivers, in creeks or little streams of water. So it's a species, a versatile species, is with high levels of adaptations. So talking about his diet, uh, the neotropical otters consumes principal fish, between 17–19%, and then the crustaceans like shrimps and crabs compose the 13–15%, and finally the mollusks, clams and snails, around the 10% of his diet. Um, but and sometimes the neotropical otters can eat different species, like snakes, birds, turtles, frogs, insects. and everything they can catch is the top predator of the rivers in Mexico. And this photo shows two neotropical otters catching and killing a young caiman. So it's a important predator of these ecosystems. This species is a solitary species, and the mating only occurs during reproduction seasons between in Mexico is between October and December, and they have 60 days of gestation, and the young are born between March and April during the dry season when the rivers are low and quiet. So let's talk about a little about the importance of parent care for others. This stage of their lives is key to survival of the young because this bond between mother and cubs is very important to survivors. Why? Because the mother teaches to the cubs to swim and diving. That is important for one species that is lives in the water, in the rivers, in the lakes. No? And the mother teach for food, teach search for food and shelter, moves across the river, and use passages between water shields on streams, etc., and use the latrines for communication. That point is important because the Neotropical otter use the latrines to communicate. The this species have two ways to communicate. Uh, the first is is with the vocalizations, which are quite diverse to be a solitary species. And the second way is the olfactory one that use latrines as communication centers. They can know only with the smell of the scats. The other comes to the rock, to the trunk, and drops the scats. Then another otter comes and smell the scat. And this otter can know who is in the territory, maybe another male or female, and the reproductive status of the other individuals in the area, the kinship, maybe is the sister and his mother, etc. So it's very important the latrines. And we, as research, use the latrines to get data about the others. We can take samples for note the diet, the levels of pollution, genetics, behavior, use of habitat, etc. So it's important. The importance of the others or the study of the others is because the others are a very important or have a very important role in their habitat. They are the top predator of the, therefore can give us information about the quality of the habitat where they live. That is, that is the why the reason are not asked. A river biomonitoring species. Why is a biomonitoring species? Because the others told us what happens in their habitat or what happened with their prey, for example, or the water quality. So in this picture, can you pay attention? And I like this slide because shows how the number of the otters change respect to the habitat quality. So when we pollute the rivers, the first thing to decrease is the crustaceans, and they go disappear or have a low levels of abundance. That is important for the otters, so less number of otters as result. Later, when there is deforestation of the river banks, that is important for the reproduction of the otters. So less otters or number of otters. Overfishing is another threat that is common in Mexico, and we have many problems with that, and reflects in the number of the otters. If continuing with the degradation of pollution of their habitat, maybe we can't find otters anymore, or just a few members in big areas. So it's important. The number of the otters show us what happened in this ecosystem. So in another indicate the quality of the river. In good or high qualities of the river, we can find high abundance of number of their otters, and we can be breeding in this habitat. On the other hand, in habitats where with low quality, we can find a few otters or maybe no, and not breeding. Uh, so good river, many otters, bad river, few otters or no others. So in Mexico and Latin America, the principal threats of the neotropical otters are these: in first, the water pollution, and change the course of the rivers, make boiled dams, for example, that could the yen flu, for example. And well, the neotropical order, as the 13 others, have many threats, and this species is the exception. It faces different threats. In the second is overfishing, like William told us, is very common in Mexico too. For example, used bad fishing techniques like poison in the water, use dynamite to fish, and kill all individuals of fish and crustaceans. Not only catch the adults, individuals, kill the young ones too. So is a big problem, and don't respect fishing times or fishing seasons. Don't respect many people, so the population of the fish going down, and then the others go down too. Another trade is the hunting for trade or skin trade, conflict with the fishing. That is important in, and now we are working with this trade because we found in Mexico it's very common. In the past, we don't know that. What is the response of the fisherman or, or owns or fish farms is kill the other. This is the solution for them is kill the others, because the others for them is a negative species, a competitor, cause damage in their fishes, their fish. Sorry, and so many others dead in Mexico because this conflict, no, with fishing. Another threat that is increasing too is catch cubs as pets. Uh, First one is illegal commerce in all around the world, not only in Mexico, and only as pets in local communities. It's common in Mexico that the fishermen catch cubs and take in his home in their homes in the local communities. It's common found otters in the communities. And all these traits are make the tropical otter is considered almost threatened by the IUCN, and in Latin America, in all his distribution, is a threatened species. In Mexico, is protected by the law, but the people ignore that or evade, uh, evade this norm or law. So I'm going to tell you a little about the genetics of Neotropical otter in Mexico because it is very important information to take conservation measures for this species. And we know, okay, here is three basins, river basins, in the middle of Mexico, in this part. Uh, sorry for the image. It's Mexico, and this part is the study area. So we know the others in have low population size, a few new numbers, only 259 individuals in this area, in this entire area. So that indicates it's a abundance low, and the important decreases their genetic diversity. The genetic diversity of this species is low and going down. That is important for conservation because populations with low numbers of individuals and low diversity, genetic diversity is propense to go to extinction or local extinctions. And the populations on these parts of Mexico are structured, and the gene flow may be at the risk because the otters use these parts in the middle of the watersheds to move between the watersheds and the or population. So in this image, you can see four groups, four groups based in genetics. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. But it's a strong structure. That means the genetic flow is low, or maybe there is no more genetic flow. Now, the neotropical otters and the protected areas. In Mexico, we have around 150 protected areas. And we can find otters only in the 33% of the total of these uh, protected areas. That is low. But the problem is the mostly of the research and programs, conservation programs, are in the neotropical, in the protected areas. So there, therefore, it's necessary to promote studies and conservation programs of the species outside of the protected areas. It's very important. The most of the information is from here, this little part of the protected areas, and the rest of the country, the knowledge is low. So we need to work more outside of the protected areas. So the people and the others. This aspect is very important. It's a key for conservation because we, as research, we can answer questions about ecology, genetics, habitat quality, evolution, behavior, etc. But we need the other part of the puzzle to the conservation, the people, the knowledge of the local communities and his perception of the order are very important. So we need together research and local people in one way to make strategies for the order conservation, because without the help of the local people, we are lost. So in Mexico, the people ignorance of the importance of the otters, or in other parts, there is a general disinterest in the conservation of the otters, and the other part is a negative perception about the otter because I told you the fishermen consider negative species, bad species, aggressive species. They prefer that the others disappear from the from the rivers, for example. So we need to change that. We need work about this and how we can change that. The first step is information, information about the orders. What's important? Why? Uh, or give to the people the law or information that Neotropical Otters is a protected species, that what which threats are decreasing the other populations, for example, and make posters, digital imaging, uh, workshops, talks about the importance of this species, and the people get happy to know the 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 others lives near or near in your communities and change the main. We can find a good result about this information and change the main of the people about the others. Another way is the environment education is key for any project of or research about the others. We talk uh, with the kids, with the young, with the fishermen about the importance of the otters as top the predator, implication of hunting and catching otters as pets, for example, and the people change his mind about this species. So this aspect is extremely important to development. We want to do a study with the other or implement conservation programs. So this is always important. And we have an important results in the change of negative perception of lack of interest towards the conservation of others, which motivates us a lot to continue implementing environment education talks in local communities. And we invite members of local communities, people, to be part of the monitoring committee and then conduct the training workshops. So where we give them workshop of how to monitor the others and their use of field equipment, find scats, find the holes or take samples, take data, etc. That is important to know. It's important to the research and conservation of this species. So we work on different parts of Mexico with the people making uh, these workshops with the fishermen included. These are owners on fish farms, and they was killing the otter. Now they protect the otter. They know how protect his bones against the otter. So it's a measure that evades they kill the otter. So here you can see more photos of the training of the local people to search and record traces of the otters, as well to file outfield formats. These formats give us information to the abundance, to habitat quality, and other local threats, for example, and we use for studies or to know the ecology of the otter. We also teach them the proper operation of dry cameras, for example, for the registration of the otters, which allows generate the new data on the ecology of the species. So this is a group of fishermen in Tabasco, and we touch the use of the camera try cameras, sorry, no camera traps, well, it's the same. Um, and how put and change the data, the date, the number of the pictures or videos to take, etc. So we have very important results. Now, I will show you a little video. Let me see about the tropical otters in Mexico and how we work with this species. So the tropical otters spend most of their activities uh, to find their prey and records his territory to watch that another otter not invades it. They use latrines and vocalizations to communicate. They have a good uh, hair sense. This otter eats in the water or near to the shore. For example, this otter is in captivity. We can take this video. You can saw in his neck a line. This line is a scar because the people catch and put a rope around his neck. So the monitoring programs includes in different habitats, and we need to adapt to his this type of habitat. For example, in the runs or on rivers with high speed, we need to adapt it. For example, rafting techniques to find the scats, find the holes in rivers. In Mexico, there is a very common this type of rivers between the mountains and dangerous if you don't use the equipment. In other parts is on feet, the trackings or the transects. In other parts, the rivers are very small and they're deep in the mountains, so it's very difficult working in that place. And in the other part, near to the coast, in wetlands, for example, is in about special, very, very thin, or something in speeds with about with motors. They are very, very speed and work with the others in captivity in aquariums and on zoos that permits get samples from blood and answer a question about his reproduction, behavior, etc. So all this work in field is for get this part, get the samples to give us information about the neotropical order, different uh, uh, aspects like genetics, abundance, and distribution. pollution, etc. So thanks to the entire team and collaborators of this work, to the local people who get very important information, and thank you for your attention, for being here and listen to this talk. So that's all, Ben. Have any question?
Perfect, Pablo. Thank you so much. That was a really interesting, informative talk, and I thought it really well represented kind of what every presenter's been saying today about kind of the balance between wetland habitats and otters. I think the 2 or 3 slides right in the middle of your presentation perfectly represented how important both otters are and the habitats for the otters as well, for the otters to survive. So thank you for that. I'll just go through any questions that we might have. One question asks, are neotropical otters protected also outside of protected areas in Mexico? And if so, is there enforcement efforts by authorities to protect them?
Okay, yes, the law protect the neotropical areas around in all Mexico, in natural protected areas or not. So the law is for all country, and there is an enforcement about authorities. Yes, but it's um, um, it's a little it's, it's not like natural in protected areas. For example, the tropical areas in Mexico is a species considered that um, prioritary species, but only in the national parks, for example. But outside, no. And so we, as research, we make this work, for example, and
Yeah,
government no.
that makes sense. I'm seeing if you've got any other questions. There's a couple of longer questions, Pablo. If you could maybe have a look at the chat and the questions and answers. I'm just wondering if there's any shorter questions that we could have a look. There's one from Anna Maria who's asking what your key challenges are in making kind of communities participate in monitoring and that side of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably you. There's a couple of questions, if you don't mind just having a look at the chat, that maybe need longer answers, if that's okay. And we will thank you very much, Pablo. Again, fantastic presentation. And any other questions that appear, we'll answer as we go along.
Okay.
So we will pass over to Megan of the River Otter Ecology Project. I will just give her a short introduction before she offers her presentation on her work with North American river otters. So Megan is a co-founder and executive director of the River Otter Ecology Project and deputy North American coordinator for the IUCN Otter Specialist Group. Before delving into watershed ecology, through working towards endangered salmon recovery for the Salmon Protection and Watershed Network, she produced continuing medical education programs for doctors, rehabbed raccoons, opossums, and squirrels, and provided training in wildlife-human conflict mediation for municipalities and the public. She and co-founder Terence Carroll began the River Otter Ecology Project in 2012 to explore the recovery of river otters in the San Francisco Bay Area of California. Her favorite things, besides all things wildlife, are painting, road trips, her cats, and her husband's. However, she will not say in which order these come. So I will allow Megan to take to the stage, as it were, and offer her presentation. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Let me just share screen with you. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, it is so great to be among you all today and to hear about the work that you're doing. It's endlessly inspiring to me, and it gives me ideas, and I love to be among you. And I thank you all for your conservation work, and all of you here for your interest in conservation. And to the IOSF, you have done so much work, and we are thrilled to be part of this and to support you in this World Otter Day. So happy World Otter Day to everyone. And I will get started. I'm going to talk today about river otters in California specifically. California is a large state on the west coast of the United States. And we started our project near San Francisco, which is in the center of the state by San Francisco Bay, the largest estuary on the west coast of the Americas. And river otters were here historically, but they disappeared in the late 1800s and early 1900s due to the usual culprits that you've heard about today: fur trapping, pollution, and loss of wetland habitat. Much of the San Francisco Bay Area's wetlands were completely filled in to make room for people during the 1800s. So by the 1900s, otters were really not seen around San Francisco Bay, and they were officially considered non-occurring by the Wildlife Agency. However, we had seen them in our area in the San Francisco Bay. Here's a female pulling her two pups up a very steep cliff with her helper female with her. That helper female is probably her sister or her daughter, helping with those youngsters. So our otters here are just, as you can see, beautiful and attractive. And we realized that since they were back in the San Francisco Bay Area and no one really knew about it, we could use their attractiveness and their adorability factor to support conservation of wetlands. And so our project started, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But first, I want to show you a couple of our iconic American species interacting with river otters. Here is an American bald eagle and one of our coastal river otters who's pulled a fish up onto the rock. And being a bald eagle, they really like to share prey species with other wildlife. And obviously, you know, otters, they're not going to have that. So this otter practically flew out of the water and is chasing that huge eagle, much bigger than the otter, and ends up chasing it right up the rock, and the eagle flies off without getting anything that day. So good for the otters. And here's another one of our iconic predator species, the coyote. This is my study site in a national park near where I live. The coyotes and those otters, I see them all the time. I see them interacting in a wary way. They're not friends, but they're not really enemies either, and they don't tend to fight each other. Now, the coyote will take an otter pup if it can, so the otters are careful, especially when they have pups around. But the coyotes are not too big of a threat to them, except that the river otters cache food. They catch coots, which is a small water bird, and they stash them in this lagoon to eat later. And the coyote, being very smart, pays attention, and he goes down and tries to grab them. And again, sharing food. We know that otters do not like to share food. So here's the otter telling the coyote he is not welcome, and finally chasing him off. And I love these videos. I love to watch the interactions between wildlife and between different wildlife species. And we capture a lot of that on our trail cameras. However, today I'm going to talk about a community science project we've had for the past 9 years. When we started our project in 2012, here is a map of most of the northern part of California. Here's San Francisco Bay right here. And here is the area where we live and work in Marin County. when we began our work, this orange area on the map was considered river otter range. And nobody was aware that river otters had returned to the San Francisco Bay Area. And they returned because of things that happened 50 and 60 years ago. First of all, trapping was banned in California in 1961, and that certainly made a difference. Fur trapping was banned only for otters in that year, but I'm happy to say that in the last couple of years, fur trapping for all wildlife has been banned in California. We need to work on the rest of our country to get there, but we have a start. So we started our project and we asked people to send in their river otter sightings on our website. And they began to do it. We did a lot of outreach. People sent in sightings, usually with photos or often with photos. And we sent our data set into the California Department of Wildlife. And a year and a half ago, they updated their range map. So this lighter yellow area portion is all of the new range in California. We added 4,100 square miles to the range. And this is through community science. This is through people getting excited about otters and being willing to go to our website and input their sightings. It's amazing to me that humans will do so much for wildlife just out of caring about them. So this is hopeful for me, and it made me happy. But there's more to the story, because why do we care? Why are we interested in the range and in the increase of range? How does that help with conservation? Well, as we've heard several times already today, it's about people. It's about people getting excited by river otters. And here in the Bay Area, we have very dense city populations, lots and lots of people. And when they realize that otters can thrive in a densely populated urban areas like this one, here's a mother, a helper female, and 3 pups in a pretty big city, Santa Rosa, that's near San Francisco. So when people in neighborhoods see that and they start understanding, and we do education and outreach about the fact that changes that we have made 50 and 60 years ago are making a big difference, so that species that disappeared are coming back on their own. They're not being reintroduced. They're returning because we have changed conditions for them, made it easier for them to survive where we live. So to us, people are one of the most important reasons that we do this project and the community science outreach that we do. Next, why do we need to know where river otters are? San Francisco Bay, right here in the center, is a huge port and tanker. This is this blue and yellow here shows tanker traffic coming into San Francisco Bay and in through the estuary. We also have rail lines. Tankers and rail lines carry toxic substances as well as crude oil and gas. Now, they are subject to spillage. About 12 years ago, 15 years ago now maybe, we had a big oil tanker spill right at the center of the entrance to the Golden Gate in San Francisco. It wasn't known that river otters were here. All these orange dots are otter sightings. It wasn't known at that time that there were river otters living anywhere in this area. And so there was no plan for them. There was no plan to find out how they were affected by the oil spill, how many were affected. Wildlife rehabilitation centers were not prepared to accept oiled river otters. So very important for the departments and agencies to understand where river otters are for spills. And here's a little river otter in rehab, one of those photos that helps wildlife rehabilitation centers do well and survive, because as we all know, river otters are the most adorable animals going. Next, who else needs to know where river otters are? Again, here are all the orange dots on the map. all of this area was considered having no river otters before we started our citizen science project. So now we know that there are river otters here. A lot of this area is national and state parks and open space and protected space areas where lots of restoration projects are going on. A lot of times restoration is geared toward endangered species, like those salmon that I used to work with. River otters are in almost every watershed in the San Francisco Bay area, at least in the northern and eastern part, not so much in the south and coastal area south of San Francisco. However, when we're doing restorations based on that are geared toward endangered species, the managers of those projects really need to know what other wildlife species are in those areas so that they can avoid conflicts. For example, in our local national park, there's a big project to collect all the tiny, tiny salmon fry, the baby salmon, and raise them in a hatchery so that they have a better chance of surviving, and return them to the stream when they're ready to spawn, to lay their eggs and have their young. If there are otters in that stream, we want to know where they are and about how many of them there are so that we can help ensure that those coho salmon have a good possibility of surviving to spawn and have young. That's one example. Another is that river otters do eat a lot of water birds, and many of our conservation efforts are aimed toward water birds. So land managers need to understand the species that are in the areas that they cover. Another problem here in California is wildfire. We've had so many wildfires, and they are going to continue. And we need to make sure that we have wildlife corridors for our animals to go through to escape fires. So knowing that there are otters there is just more information for managers to understand how corridors work and how otters can escape from fires. And finally, since a lot of these areas are national and state parks and open spaces, it's super important for responsible wildlife viewing for the managers to understand what species are there. And next, sorry about this not very great map, but this is a map that a nonprofit organization has put together about wildlife that's killed on roads in California. And all of these blue and red bits are wildlife hotspots where a lot of wildlife is killed, and they do this work so that they can inform traffic and road officials of where hotspots are. They can get culverts, overpasses, and wildlife crossings put together to help wildlife. One of the things we do at River Otter Ecology in our community science program is collect sightings of dead otters. And almost every single sighting, 99.9% of them are otters who are hit by cars. Road strikes are incredibly easy. I mean, incredibly happen quite a lot for otters because they're small, they're dark, and people drive fast up and down our coast. So they get hit all the time. And next, we do a great deal of outreach and advocacy for watersheds. Our mission is to support watersheds because that's where otters and other species live, and that's what we all depend upon, humans, wildlife, everyone. We need clean water, we need good habitat for all wildlife. So we do comment letters, we do a lot of speaking at public meetings, and we make our voices heard. And most importantly, as all of you are saying, we help young people to make their voices heard as well. And here are some of our students. We really love teaching students. Mapping is super important for students to understand, and we teach mapping and presence of river otters in different ways. This photo on the top is a very large mural. It's made of wool, and the students in the schools cut out and make these little stick-on creatures and buildings and cars to help to understand interrelationships within a watershed. So you see we have a whole watershed here from the mountains all the way down to the coastline, and the students love it. I think they really get a lot out of it. And I especially love this one student who put in a very large river otter overcoming the mountain. So cute. And we work with high school students, as you see, the young women on the top right. We teach them, this particular class, we were teaching how to do prey studies using otter scat, really fun. And then the little ones down here are just doing some otter art. And if you look closely at the bottom of the page on the table, you can see IOSF's otter mask, which our children love. And we love to show it, and we love to show the kids wearing those masks. So thank you, IOSF, for that great mask. And next, I'll just show you, here's the San Francisco Bay Area again. Here's San Francisco Bay, and all of these yellow dots are otter sightings. And these are all areas where otters were not thought to be before we started our project. One of the things we're trying to figure out is really how far south along the coastline otter range goes. And we're not entirely sure, because we have had some sightings down here where all the blue dots are. However, those sightings haven't come in with photos. A lot of times people mistake otters and other animals like seals, muskrats, and others. So we are working hard on figuring out the exact southern end of river otter range in the Bay Area. Another thing we are doing, we call Team Otter. It's a little different from IOSF's Team Otter. This is a salvage group. It's a partnership between our state wildlife agency and us and the California Academy of Sciences, where we are collecting dead otters for necropsy to find out how their health is and what kinds of health issues they have. And finally, really probably the most important thing we're doing with this Otter Spotter project is to really zero in on communities that have otters, and particularly on communities that don't always connect themselves or their groups or their communities with conservation. And some of that is because of lack of ability to get to national parks or state parks, which we have many of all around us. Some of it is because people live in dense urban areas and they don't really think of conservation as applying to them. But when we can explain to them, look, we have river otters here in the Bay Area, near to where you are, you can probably go and see them pretty easily, or you can look for them anyway. When they start to understand that, they get excited, again, because otters are so attractive and cute. So we're using this information that's new to help adults and children as well understand that when we make changes, we can change the mistakes that we've made in the past, and the changes we make have ripples far into the future. So we are very, very committed to doing that, and doing it neighborhood by neighborhood, otter by otter. And I'm going to finish up with just one video from one of our trail cams. This is some little ones. So thank you all so much for being here today. And thank you, IOSF, for inviting us. This is really, really fun. And I just want to let you know the story, that some of the photos I told you and I told you about today, and the whole story is on our new story map, which is an ArcGIS map. It's online. We will be putting the links on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website today in celebration of World Otter Day. We just finished with this project, so it will be up if you'd like to see it. And thank you. I will stop sharing now.
Brilliant, Megan. Thank you so much for your presentation. It really does show how much effect the community and society can have on otters and kind of gaining more information. It doesn't necessarily need to be an otter expert who helps in otter conservation. It can be anyone who can just offer their sightings or any sort of information they have. So yeah, a really important message as well, to show that anyone can help and we can all help. And if we all work together, we can all help make a difference. Has anyone got any questions for Megan? I think a lot of good thank yous. There's a comment on the questions and answers that says, really great to hear about old actions having their impact seen. Sad that it's taken so long, but as they say, the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. The second best time is now. I would love to be able to use that distribution data as an example, if that is allowed, and where the data might be found would be greatly appreciated. So if you're happy to answer that individual just in the questions and answers, whether they can use that data, then that would be awesome. And thank you for the comment. Does anyone else have any further questions for Megan or the river otters? I have a question out of intrigue more than anything. I know that obviously you're based in California and you also have the sea otter. Do the two species ever interact, or do they generally avoid each other? I know that one's more marine based, but they possibly can.
Well, they can interact. We have in California, our river otter, our sea otter population tends to be in the south part or in central California, and our river otter population is a little bit north of where they are. However, in northern areas, north of here and in Canada and Alaska, sea otters and river otters are in the same areas. They do avoid each other. We occasionally have a sea otter swimming by, just swimming by and coming back along our coastline. And the one time that our little river otters, one of our study groups of otters were out there and a sea otter was in the bay, 3 of them immediately swam up to the sea otter. They were fascinated. They had never, as far as I know, they had never seen one before. And they immediately zipped over and they hung out with it for about half an hour. They didn't get too close. Sea otters weigh about 65 pounds and river otters weigh about 20. So they were smart enough not to get too close to that sea otter, but they watched it and they followed it for a couple of miles along the coast. And then they turned around and came back and the sea otter continued on its way. So definitely some interest there.
That's a good story. I like that story.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll pass over to our final presenter, who is Bridgette San Marco of Save the Giants. I will go through her little brief about her information and her organisation as well. So Save the Giants is a non-profit, community-driven conservation organisation that is dedicated to preserving wildlife via a multidisciplinary approach. The focal species for Save the Giants is the critically endangered giant otter. Other otters are an important indicator species due to their sensitivity to environmental stressors and their semi-aquatic lifestyle. They act as a canary in the coal mine for concerns both on land and in water. Since giant otters are top predators, they also indicate the health of a balanced food web. Save the Giant sees the otter's ecological importance and utilises a One Health approach to conservation with the giant otter at the centre of the discussion. Bridget herself is the co-founder of Save the Giants. In addition to her work with the team of Save the Giants, she is a rainforest biologist at Moody Gardens, an AZA accredited zoological facility, where she cares for giant otters among several other species. She is a member of the Otter Education Advisory Group. In short, Bridget really loves otters and conservation and wants you all to as well. So I'll pass you over to Bridget, and thank you, Bridget, for presenting for us.
Thanks for having me and for hosting this. And then also happy World Otter Day, everybody. And it's also Guyana Independence Day. So happy Guyana Independence Day, everybody, too. My presentation's a video, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and let it play, and then we can do question answer at the end. Is it playing?
No, it's not. I can hear the music, but it's
Okay.
stopped at 1 second.
Let me pause it. I think it was a share problem. How about now? Can you see it?
Yeah, it's up to 23 seconds now, so hopefully it'll work when you click. Yeah, that's working now. It's moved past the initial bit.
All right.
Hi, Bridget. That was really good. I particularly like the rainforests protect us, so we should protect them. I think that's not necessarily just for rainforests, but for all ecosystems, habitats, any forests. It's an important message that we need to help protect them, and if we protect them, we will in turn protect the otters, I guess is the easiest way to put it. Does anyone have any questions for Bridget and her work? There's one from Sharon Lashley who asks, with so many threats and problems for the giant otter, how do you remain positive and what keeps you focused?
That's a really good question. There's certainly a lot of things that are down, but I think if you look at it as yourself and what can you do today, and everybody can do something really small and different, it's going to make a change. So spreading the word, then participating in conservation, making sure that you're refusing plastics, reducing, reusing, recycling yourself. Like there's little positives here and there, and it's what you can do, what little tiny step to keep moving forward to make it better for everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. If ever, like we've had about 100 people, 200 people over the 2 webinars, and if every single person tells one person, then that's 400 people, and then they tell another one person, then it's an easy way to do it, I guess, is spread the message of otters, which is great. We have another question from Suze who says, I would be interested in knowing more about what you use drones for, studying the otters directly or more habitat.
So the drones are a really awesome tool for doing population surveys. It might have been hard to see in the video, but you can count the ripples and see the otters from the drone. And it's high enough up that it's not disturbing them at all. They were fishing, doing their own thing. The drone is as loud as a bee going around, so it wasn't too intrusive into their habitat. So it's good for getting counts on otters and covering ground that you can't physically get to. So there's a lot of flooding that takes place there. And so if we can't physically get to a pond or we can't physically get to one area, we can send the drone over to scan and see if it's worth trying to trek through to set a camera trap or just collect the drone footage.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember when we were with you in Guyana, that was how it was used to save us traipsing through the forest. We would just send the drone and then be like, nah, we don't need to bother this time, we'll do it. So it saves a lot of legwork in the long run. What else have we got? Is there anything published about that? There is a lake that is an old palm swamp that I was wanting to do this with. Or anything published I can reference?
There's a few different conservation projects, not necessarily otters, but globally, that use drones to assist in conservation work. I know the company Cisco was promoting some work that they were doing in, I believe, Africa with using drones for conservation. I have not published anything about our drone usage. We're still just navigating and using it. It's been very helpful so far. But I can give you my email and we can talk more about drones and conservation because I love using all that stuff.
The next question is actually a good question, and I think it'll be one that you like. So how do you identify which otter is which? E.g. saw that one part saying otter 2. So how can you tell the difference between the otters?
Yeah, so with giant otters, it is the best for identifying individuals because they all have a unique throat patch pattern. So it's like your thumbprint. It's a unique pattern for every individual. And what we do is we go along on our rapid river surveys or setting camera traps, and we try to get pictures of that throat patch. And then we put it all into a database and we know every individual otter. And then every time we see it pop up, we record that GPS and it's recorded directly onto a map that we can search all the little pins of everywhere that individual otter has popped up or shown up in its different area. But yeah, it's the same from when they're born to as they're adults. That throat patch never changes. So it's like a blonde to like white cream color amongst the brown. So it's really easy.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's actually the same with the spotted necked otter that is in Tanzania that William works with as well. This is kind of an open question to anyone who knows the answer. This could be Grace or Paul as well. Have you found any diseases jumping between species? I'm not sure whether they mean between otter species or between species, other species and otters.
Sorry, that's for a whole panel discussion?
Just anyone that can answer the question.
Okay. Well, in Mexico, yes, we have records of this disease jumping between the dogs and the otters, and it's important because this disease is mortal for the otters. So the 100% the otters die. And this occurs when the local people, take the pups and keep in his homes with the dogs and get the disease. Then the people sometimes free against the otter with the disease and spread the disease in the wild. So it's a big problem, and the disease is distemper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Another really relevant one right now is COVID-19. I mean, it's definitely gone over into otters from humans. So we have to be really careful looking about how we're interacting and where all of our waste is going and how close we are to certain animals and what that exchange is. So I know mustelids as a whole can get COVID-19 that's zoonotic.
Yeah, I've seen reports of that as well. Does anyone have any further questions? Oh, there's a question here. What are the interaction of otters with caiman or any other aquatic species? That'll be possibly for Bridget.
Yeah. So the giant otters, they are very bold, very large. They're top of the food chain, right along with the caiman and jaguars down there. We have one group who likes to feed on caiman. Every now and then they'll take them down, but for the most part, they just see a caiman, ignore it, keep going. They don't bother them too much. They kind of keep their own distance. Caiman might try to go after their young, but since they're so social and they're always in their big family group, unless it's like a transient, the caiman would probably want to avoid the family group of giant otters.
Yeah, but a mutual respect from the big predators, I think.
Yes.
Have the otters been measured or their sizes estimated? Which is the biggest?
So the giant otter is the longest otter in length, and then heaviest is the sea otter.
Yeah.
The giant otters can get up to about 6 feet in length.
There
you do meters. I don't.
No, that's fine. 6 feet's fine. Anna Maria is asking, has your drone ever been attacked by birds?
Thankfully, no. Not yet.
Not yet.
But I know of that happening.
I think, unless has anyone got any further questions, or does any of the panel have any questions for anyone else within the panel? No, that's good. That means you've all covered all the questions that might be answered. Someone, I think it's
Hello?
Grace. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I just want to say that if people are feeling that they're sort of isolated, there's a brilliant lyric from Biko. You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flames begin to catch, the wind will blow it higher. And that's what we can all do for otters and the environment.
Agreed. Yeah, that's kind of the point of the whole series of webinars, or the 2 webinars that we're doing, that we're bringing. It's not necessarily Bridget talking about what she's doing or Megan talking about what she's doing and so on. It's about all of us talking about what we're doing, because we're all working as a team at the end of the day, and we kind of IOSF in some respects, particularly in our rehab centre, we work with Eurasian otters, and Megan's obviously working with the North American river otter, and Pablo with Neotropicals, and William with the African clawless and the spotted neck. It's because we're all kind of rooting for the same goal at the end of the day. We're working in our expertise, but we all want the same end goal, which is for otters and otter populations and other wildlife populations for that matter to increase. I think there was actually another question. Just a really nice comment from Heidi Davis that says, what I love about the 2 webinar sessions today is that so many different otter species and countries were featured. By far the most educational webinar I've attended. Thank you to all the panelists. So that's a thank you to all you guys that are here at the moment. And I'll have to pass on that thanks to the other, the earlier individuals. We've got more questions in as we've got a wee bit more time. Are there any records of them terrorizing the Cayman jaguars when they are in their territory? You know, like basking near the holts or anything like that?
Yeah, certainly. There's actually some good YouTube videos you can find of giant otters scaring off jaguars when they're too close to their holts. It's a quick YouTube search and it comes up pretty quick.
There was also the picture that you got of the giant otter holt when the family was away, the Neotropical crypt, and I don't think we ever worked out what it was doing, but it just came in to have a look around, I think.
The cool thing about their giant otters is they have their territory, but they'll have multiple holts within their territory, and they kind of bounce back and forth between what holt they're sleeping in when. And when it's available, Neotropical otters will stay at the hotel for the night, I guess you could say, and then they'll go off. So they'll use them too, and other animals will also use giant otter holts and then just leave when the giant otters are coming back to use it again. Yeah.
Prayful, who asked the question in regards to them terrorizing jaguars and stuff, he says that in India, where he's based, the smooth-coated otters terrorize tigers and mugger crocodiles. I think it's the same with any of the species of otters. They can be cheeky and they can be territorial, and they will defend and annoy equally other animals that are within that territory. Bridget, where did you get the World Otter Day colourful graphic?
So our amazing President Christina Ward is a very talented artist, and she created it. If anybody wants that graphic like on an item, we have it on our Redbubble shop where you can purchase it on like shirts and like mugs and all sorts of things like that. So it's redbubble.com, and then just search within there for Save the Giants or Otter or World Otter Day. It's under all those hashtags.
Yeah, and some of the kind of proceeds that go towards your work as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, all of the proceeds go directly to helping out everything in the field.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good as well. We got Megan, any plans to go outside California? For example, we are finally starting to see otters in Galveston Bay, Texas.
Thank you,
That's
Michael.
Michael, Bridget.
Thank you. Thanks for asking about that, Michael. I didn't mention it, but actually Otter Spotter is all over the United States. So we get otter sightings from really everywhere, and we welcome them. We haven't done a lot of outreach to other states, mainly because we are a tiny mom and pop organization, and we have to go mainly via social media and word of mouth. So we do get sightings from Maryland, from definitely some from Texas. If you go onto our map, you can see, on our website, you can see where the otter sightings are. We get them from Florida, from really all over the place, Colorado. So send in those sightings. We love them. Thank you.
Absolutely. And any of the people that are attending here and have listened to these amazing presentations, I think you should all have my email address anyway. And I'm sure if you have any questions for myself or any of the panelists, you can pass them on to me, and I can pass them further on to the four hosts today, if they're happy with that. If they have any further questions that we might end this webinar and you might think, I wish I'd asked that, then please feel free to send them through to me and I can try and answer them for you. Heidi, in regards to your question about the list of email addresses, if you email me directly or message me as you have been, then I can ask all of the panelists today if they're happy for you to receive their email addresses, or I can ask you right now if you're happy. Or like either way, I can ask the question and I can pass on email addresses for you. Has anyone got any further questions or comments for any of our panelists or myself? I'll give them a few minutes. just want to say thank you to Bridget, Megan, Pablo and William for your superb presentations. And not only your presentations come about from the superb work you're doing. It's great to see you highlighting all the work you're doing. And yeah, so thank you for not only your presentations, but the work. It's so important to have a team like we've got and keep growing the team with the people that are here today and work towards our common goal, which is helping otters, animals and wetland habitats too. And as there are no further questions, unless any of you individuals have anything to say, then we could wrap it up there. No comments? Thank you very much again, guys. Thank you, Bridget, Megan, William, and Pablo. Thanks for your time, your expertise, and for sharing World Otter Day with us today.
Happy World Otter Day.
Happy World Otter Day, everyone. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.